Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to the third day of the 25 days of Kitmas. I hope you guys are enjoying this series so far. Since we've already covered foundations and tips for choosing the right foundations for your kit, I wanted to go ahead and cover the next complexion item in my kit, and that is concealers and also eyeshadow primers. Now you might think that it's kind of weird putting these two together in a video. However, the majority of concealers can also sometimes double as eyeshadow primers, so that's why I wanted to include them both in this video. I wanted to start out by saying that with concealers, it is kind of nice because you do not have to have as many shades as you do for foundations. I would say about 4 concealers in the range is a good happy medium. You don't have to match the person's skin tone exactly. You just have to get somewhat close. And then my other tip for concealers really quickly is that you really only need to have a satin or a dewy finish formulation, something that's kind of hydrating for drier skin clientele. And then number 2, you also have to carry a matte formulation for concealer. And that's really about it. And you can kind of mix and match too if you want to. If you are having issues picking concealers, the tips from my last video about choosing the right foundations for your kit will also apply to concealers as well. So definitely go ahead and check out yesterday's video if you guys have not checked it out already. I'll link it up here for you guys. And without further ado, let's get on to the concealers. For my very first concealer, I have the Nars Soft Matte Complete Concealers. These are actually not depotted despite what it looks like. These are the original Nars packaging, and all I did is take Gorilla Glue and glue all 4 of the jars together, and that way they can sit really nicely inside of my kit. All I have to do is just unscrew one, scoop it out, and then screw it back on. I labeled the front of them so I could tell which colors were which. I do wish that I did have maybe one shade that was in between the 2 of these, one's in the middle, because there is quite a difference between the 2 of these. Although when you mix them, it actually does make a really nice shade range. But let me go ahead and get onto some swatches and also tell you the details of why I like this concealer. It retails for $32, which actually is not bad at all considering you do not need that much product. They come in 30 different shades, which is a really good shade range for concealers. Nars overall though does do really good at their shade ranges and their undertones, which is why I personally love them for foundations and concealers. A little bit about the product here. It's a full coverage oil-free concealer that conceals and blurs imperfections with a soft matte natural looking finish. Even though it is more of a mattifying concealer, it can still be used on people with drier skin. I probably would just look out for those that maybe have a little bit more dry under eyes. It can be a little bit challenging to blend out sometimes if people are truly dry. It also contains hyaluronic acid, which is why it still does have that hydrating property despite it being a matte finish. This reduces the appearance of wrinkles and pores and also hydrates. And then it does also have antioxidants inside of it too, which is vitamin A, C, and E, and they deliver daily defense from your free radical damage, which is overall going to prevent wrinkles and fine lines. It is also safe for those with acneic skin or any blemishes on their face as well. Now for the shade ranges. The first shade we have is Chantilly, which is very light with neutral undertones. Then we have Custard, which is a medium with neutral undertones. Next we have Chocolate, which is a medium to deep with warm undertones. And again, this is where I probably should have gotten a shade in between Custard and Chocolate. And then the last shade I have is Cafe, which is medium to deep with neutral undertones. This is also one of the concealers that can double as an eyeshadow primer. All concealers are supposed to be eye safe because they are meant to be used on the under eyes. You can use them as an eyeshadow primer because they do have a matte finish. If you use something that's a little bit more emollient or a creamy finish, they might slip and slide around and your eyeshadow may not set properly. Speaking of which, this is a concealer that I would not use for an eyeshadow primer. It is my more hydrating formulation that I have for a concealer, and this is the Kosas Revealer Concealers. Now, I do have the mini versions of these, which are so cute, by the way. The full-size versions are probably about maybe this big, I would say. Recently, I have been buying mini-size or travel-size versions in a lot of different cosmetics that I've bought so far for my kit. And this is because I am done depotting things. It takes a lot of time to depot things. The only things I still depot are my powder bronzers because they're huge bronzers in its original packaging, and then also the foundations since most of them come in glass bottles and I just don't want to lug them around like that. If you buy the normal Kosas concealer in the full-size version, it's $30, and then if you buy the travel size one, then it is $15. So the travel size versions are half the price of the normal one, which means that you're not really necessarily saving any money by buying the full-size one. So that's why I have the little travel size, guys. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about this concealer. So it is the Revealer Super Creamy and Brightening Concealer with Caffeine and Hyaluronic Acid. So this is definitely for those that have drier skin or maybe your more mature clients. Kosas is also a clean beauty brand as well, which I kind of want to start moving maybe a little bit more into the cleaner beauty brands as I start changing up my kit a little bit. But for right now though, I have really loved the introduction of this. Let's go on to the product details. So it's described as a super rich skincare packed clean concealer with medium coverage and a fresh, hydrated, and radiant finish. It's non-comedogenic and it's safe for sensitive skin. And then the highlighted ingredients it has inside of it is caffeine and pink algae extract, which is fighting dark circles, puffiness, and dullness. It has hyaluronic acid and peptides, which hydrate and visibly plump for supple, juicy skin. It does also have arnica and panthenol in it, which is an ultimate calming tool for blemishes and redness. And then this product is vegan, cruelty-free, and gluten-free as well. Now, my whole logic with only buying 4 shades is not what happened here, only because these are mini-size versions, and so I felt like having the entire shade range would probably be ideal. There's only 6 of them in the shade range in the mini-size version, so that also makes it a little bit easier for people that are struggling to pick out shades. The brand almost picks them out for you, or their most used shades. The lightest concealer shade I have is 1.5C, which is light with pink undertones. Then next there is 03W, which is light with subtle golden undertones. Then next we have tone 04N, which is light medium with neutral yellow undertones. And then we have 060, which is medium tan with olive undertones. Then we have 07N, which is medium deep with neutral warm undertones. And the last shade we have is 8.7N, which is deep with neutral golden undertones. The only thing is, I do wish that this concealer would go a little bit deeper, because honestly, this is not super deep. Okay, so it looks like the full size version does actually have one that is deeper than what this one is, but I think what they did with the mini sizes is they did take their most used concealers and then turn those into minis. If you are looking for a deeper undertone, Kosas does have that in their range. It just has to be purchased in the full size version and not the mini. Okay, then the last product I want to talk about is the eyeshadow primers, and I only have 3 primers that are specifically used for this purpose. And this is the MAC paint pots. These things are OG. I've had them since I actually worked at MAC. This is what their packaging looks like. I do keep them in their original glass packaging because there is only 3 of them, and I feel like every single time I try to transfer them or depot them into a different container, they just don't quite last as long and they dry out a little bit quicker. So I have learned to just leave them in their original container. They are the MAC Pro Longwear paint pots, and these are technically cream eyeshadows, but all the people that I know, at least artist-wise, use them as eyeshadow primers. If you wanted to use them as eyeshadow shades, they do also come in shimmer shades. The shade Vintage Selection is like a really light rose gold kind of color, and it's really pretty. They're described as a highly pigmented, long-wearing, buildable cream eyeshadow that can be worn alone or as a primer with other products and lasts for 24 hours. MAC Pro Longwear Paint Pot Eyeshadow goes on creamy and dries to an intense, vibrant finish. It's non-caking, non-flaky, non-creasing, water-resistant formula, does not cause acne, it's ophthalmologist tested, and it's also dermatologist tested. Even though it's a matte finish, I do love this on mature eyelids. There is a lot of creasing and folds that happens as you get older, so this thing does not crease or anything, and you don't even need to set it with an eyeshadow. It is self-setting. Now, the MAC paint pots are $28, which is kind of crazy because they used to be like, I think $22 when I worked for MAC. I think I worked there in like 2016, I want to say. It was like 2015 or 2016 that I worked for MAC. And yeah, I think they were around like $22, so $28's really funny to me. I have the 2 most popular shades, which are Soft Ochre and Painterly. So Soft Ochre is more of a yellow, warm undertone eyeshadow shade. It is a lovely color for any of those warm or golden undertones. Then we have Painterly, which is more of your pink or cool undertone. This looks obviously great on those with a little bit more of a rosy complexion. And both of these are for fair to medium skin tones, I would say. Then if you wanted to do something that was more in like your tanner shade complexions, there's also a shade that they came out with recently that's called Contemplative State. And this was not a shade when I was working for MAC, so it's come out like within obviously like the last like 10 years sometime, but I don't know when exactly that was. So this is more of a golden base, like it definitely has a warm golden undertone to it, and it might have a little bit more of like an olivey undertone to it too. But I really liked it for people that self-tan or they are more of that golden olive complexion. I would say that it still has to be deeper than my complexion. It still looks a little bit deep on me. So yes, that is about it for this video. I know this one was more short and sweet, but I hope you guys still really enjoyed it. Definitely go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys have not already. Hit that notification bell because you don't want to miss my uploads for the next 22 days of Kitmas. And as always, I hope you guys are having an absolutely fantastic day, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. All right, bye.